Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. And today is our Tactical Tuesday special episode. We had Kayla Davis here from our content team. And last episode, we were talking about content, but we mentioned AI content briefly. And today we want to do a deep dive into AI content specifically for law firms and lawyers. So Kayla, welcome back to the show. And I'm excited about today's topic.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am as well, because as time progresses, I get more and more of these questions. And so I'm excited to really do this deep dive here on this recording with you and really just be able to show attorneys who are either clients with us or not yet clients with us some things that they should be aware of now that there's a lot of AI content generation tools out there. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think all our firm clients or even law firms that are not our clients have a lot of friendship with lawyers and owners and marketers. So marketers listening in, if you work for a law firm or maybe you're an agency like us and you're just trying to get some good information too, we're here to share, really what we've learned, and we're constantly learning and diving into this stuff. We had a quarterly meeting this morning, company-wide, where we just talked about the changes with SEO and content and Google, and so we're constantly trying to learn as much as we can so that we can apply it to what we do for our clients and for ourselves. And so today we're not holding anything back. Kayla's got some great stuff to share, I assume. And we're going to go deep into it. So.
Yes, deep dive. We're going to be talking about Google's stance on AI content and how it has kind of flip-flopped over the past couple years. And then we'll also talk about some recent AI legal content news and kind of the consequences that we've seen of people using AI content. And then we can really just lighten up the mood towards the end and maybe talk about some opportunities in which lawyers can use AI effectively without risking their reputation or their rankings. So I can jump right into it here if you would like.
Well, let's do it. And of course, everyone, I'll be learning along the way. So I know enough, but I don't know it all. And so I'm excited to get an update myself. So
let's go ahead and start off by reviewing Google's stance on AI content. So as we know, ChatGPT has been on the scene, really popular for about 2-ish years now. The popularity has grown for 2-ish years. It's been around longer. But of course, that is technically a LLM, which is a large language model. A lot of things are being grouped under the umbrella of AI. So we'll use that term going forward. But when I say AI, we're talking about kind of these large language model tools that generate content for you based on a prompt. And that can be a variety of things. Gemini does this, previously called Bard, ChatGPT, as you know. And then there are a lot of other software tools that allow you to do the same thing here, but they usually work off of kind of open source ChatGPT availability or that API there. So a lot of those are actually just ChatGPT in a different mask. But what I want to focus on here is, Google in itself is actually trying to be an AI forward company. As you know, they have their own version of AI here with Gemini, formerly called Bard, as I mentioned. And so you would think that they would be all for AI content, but the waters have gotten very, very murky. And so we can see in April 2022 that Google actually announced that AI content violates its webmaster guidelines. And what this basically means is the webmaster guidelines as a whole is it's basically saying, you want to make sure that the content is coming from an expert. You want to make sure that you have really good page experience. A lot of times with the AI content, I know it's been changing a lot in how if it's viewed as quality or not, or if it could be perceived as being written by a human. But Google kind of went back and forth. In April 2022, it said, let's stay away from it. And then in February 2023, it said that AI content was acceptable as long as it met these EAT standards. We talk about EAT a lot here at Array Digital, and it stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so I may have mentioned that in the previous episode, but if not, these are really just factors that Google wants your content to represent to make sure that anybody that comes to your site is not reading anything that may be harmful for them physically, financially, emotionally, etc. And just for experience, having key takeaways, having testimonials to build that social proof, having infographics to really summarize information or video to summarize information and make it more multimodal. A lot of these kind of EAT factors really want to put the consumer first instead of trying to gain the system with SEO, as some people might have tried to do in the past. So if you were writing AI content and churning out a lot of pieces with AI content, or your agency was, Google said, as long as it's helpful, it may be fine. Well, then it changed its stance kind of again, or it made a decision that affected that prior stance in August 2023, which is the helpful content update. Huge update for the SEO world. And basically, when the helpful content update was released, we saw several websites be hit because they didn't actually have content that offered anything. It was mostly just a regurgitation of the statute of limitations, what your competitors are saying, etc. You didn't say anything new or helpful to users. And a lot of sites got hit by the helpful content update, and they have yet to recover. And then also on the lines of have yet to recover, another critical update came out in March 2024. And we're seeing that some sites are now what it appears to be penalized by Google for such heavy reliance on AI content. And when we say penalized by Google, we kind of see a trend of pages being published, but the traffic depleting. And so what that tells us is Google is almost permanently, or we could say shadow banning, these sites from viewership because Google has determined that most of the content on these websites is not helpful. So the content, or the website rather, as a whole, is not helpful for potential searchers. So once you kind of go down that valley, we have yet to see anybody really recover from something like that. So when you're writing content, or you have an agency writing content for you, it's really important to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this content? How does it support the other pieces of content on my website? Am I saying anything new? Am I adding nuance to an existing conversation? Or am I simply just regurgitating information for the sake of trying to rank for a keyword? I feel like SEO historically has been very keyword heavy, which it still is. You still want to do your research. But as you're writing different pieces, be sure that it will actually help people who would come to your website, and you're not just doing something that is for an algorithm only. So I can jump into what I mean here too by the data, but Kevin, if you wanted to add to what I just showed there.
Yeah, a few points I wanted to kind of throw out there. One, between February 23 and August 23, that's not a lot of time when they made a decision to flip back and say, wait a minute, this AI content's probably because they said it was okay and people just started flooding the internet with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're like,
that's
wait
exactly
a minute.
what happened.
Yeah.
It created a cesspool of content online. And so it just made it harder for Google to really sort through what is quality content that helps people and what isn't. Because the more just junk that's churned out, it's like Google has to kind of put its foot down and say, we want people to stay on our platform. That's how Google makes its money, is high users to be able to click on their ads and engage with sites. And if there's just a bunch of junk being served, then people may be tempted to not use Google search as often, or maybe just completely abandon it and go to a different search altogether, search engine altogether. So that's something that Google has to reckon with.
Yeah, Google's got to fight to stay number one, right? Or they lose everything. So think about if you went on Facebook and it was like 10 ads in a row of stuff that you're not interested in, and then you get one post, and then 10 more ads, you would just completely abandon the platform at some point. So Google has to be providing value to its users, or it goes away. So that's what Google's doing here is making sure that the content that's it's showing on searches is real, good, helpful, or original. I think that's a big thing too. And then one more point I was going to say with the EAT, the EAT. Think about that. Like, I just thought of like an example, like a resume. Say you're trying to get a job or you're trying to hire somebody. The resume is unique. They spend time on it. They put their experience, references, all those unique things about them to stand out and to bring those things across. That's kind of similar to what we're trying to do here. We want to show that you've had success with what you do, done things for your clients, that testimonials, and it's very similar. So think about it like that. And so if you look at your pages right now and you just see a bunch of legal terminology and keyword stuffed sections, no imagery, no video, nothing that's extra helpful to the user, no testimonials, no settlements or cases, stuff like that, then, that's not helpful. And Google can see that you're just trying to rank with, keywords and tactics like that. So, just something I thought about.
Absolutely. And you can kind of see that here too. This is a recent client of ours who right now, really their main focus is on advertising because unfortunately, they were at a previous agency who did generate content on their website. And this content had thresholds of 70, 80, 90, even 100% AI generated.
Mm-hmm.
Google picked up on that. As you can see, initially, there is a positive correlation between traffic and organic pages. So again, organic pages are pages that you publish to your website and are crawled in Google's search engine. So they can potentially be found by people searching for a query that essentially prompts that page to appear. So you can see that initially there was a positive correlation here. And then we start to see traffic decline and just almost zero out. But the pages keep going up. So yeah, and the pages keep going up, meaning more and more pages are being published, but the traffic's going down. So you're putting in all this, well, not really, I was about to say work if it's AI generated, it's just published to the site and you move on. But there's this effort to publish as many pieces of content as possible. But if you do it in a way that is cheapened, and it doesn't put your user in mind, then it doesn't really matter how many pieces of content you can churn out with AI. You're going to see the same result. You're going to see your traffic deplete. And you may think, what did I do? What pages do I need to rewrite? But Google sees this and it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of block your site altogether and not present it to users because you've shown a history of writing content that is really to just game the system. And so after that happens, as I said, this is really bottomed out. And after that happens, and you get this kind of penalization from Google, essentially, you may not recover from that for months, years, or longer at a time. So making sure that your current agency or writers, in-house marketing person, et cetera, making sure that they're doing their due diligence to write content that is well-researched, but also keeps the user in mind is paramount. Because if you're just writing things that Google sees as spammy, which AI falls under, then this is going to be the same result that you get for your website. And beyond just your traffic, there are attorneys who have faced legal repercussions for using AI to generate multiple kinds of items that they would need for a case. So filings, you can see here, ChatGPT hallucinated case law, and a lot of lawyers were fined for this information that they kind of turned in. It wasn't legitimate, right? So being very careful here with your website, but also with your reputation, right? These are all clickable. I have all the news articles linked in here. So if we wanted to share this afterward, we absolutely can. But you can see this is ChatGPT, Gemini. Like these are some of the most commonly used tools that we're finding that are creating hallucinations, and you don't know about it until you get penalized, right? So it's like, do you really want to trust these systems to do this research for you? Or do you want to put in your due diligence to make sure that these kinds of issues don't happen? You don't get a bar hit, you don't get suspended. Some of these attorneys have gotten suspended. And if this repeatedly happens, you can become disbarred. So you really do have to be careful. It really just goes beyond a couple pages on your website. AI use in the legal sector can be quite tricky if you don't use it very sparingly.
Well, you also have ABA law, rules to follow. Mm-hmm. So, what your website can say and how it's said and following different. So, is ChatGPT picking up on that kind of stuff? Is it following the rule book? Probably not. So by the time you use AI and you want to, go over it for legal accuracy and ABA and all that stuff, you're pretty much rewriting the piece anyway, if you're going to do it right. But back to that chart you showed, you don't have to show it again, but unfortunate for that gentleman. He's a friend of mine and a client of ours now, and we're trying to dig him out of a situation. You can see he had 1,400 per month organic traffic. This isn't anything to do with any other kind of traffic, just organic. that he relied on to generate leads for his law firm. And then 30 days over the holidays, by the way, December to January, gone, out the door. And that caused a lot of turmoil and issues with that law firm in a very short amount of time. So, and you can see how they were generating. I looked on this website prior, sometimes a piece a day or a piece every other day. So they're generating just tons of content to try to combat the drop. And that's just doing more damage and more damage and more damage. So just a lot of problems with that. So quantity is not better than quality in this case. So
Absolutely. And another thing is like pricing for digital marketing for attorneys can vary. But if I was an attorney and I was paying an agency to write content for me, and I find out that all the content that they're writing is AI generated, I would wonder what I'm paying them for. I would wonder if I can do this myself in ChatGPT, why am I paying you several hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars a month just for you to drop something in ChatGPT and publish it to my website without any forethought?
yeah,
It's just not worth your time. No strategy, nothing. It's just a regurgitation of whatever else is out there. Someone was able to generate it in a couple minutes, put it on your website, and move on to the next person. I'm sure they have several clients that they take care of each month. So it's just kind of another task that they need to get done versus sitting down with each and every client and figuring out what they want to say and interviewing them for each content item and using the transcript from that interview to really guide the piece and get that nuance that can't be captured by an AI or simply just writing pieces without the client involved. So this is a really important chart to see. And I think it's a really important case study that we can show other attorneys to just, again, not as a scare tactic or anything, but just so that you're aware of what can happen if these tools are used ineffectively or if you don't even know that they're being used. So if anything, ask your current agency how they're generating content if you do not know. And it's important for you to know that process. And of course, every single company, every single business will have kind of its internal documentation. They won't show every single thing, right? But if you go to a restaurant and you ask, hey, what are the main ingredients in this dish because I'm allergic to shellfish, they should be able to tell you that without telling you, when I created the sauce, I did it on 450-degree heat or whatnot, right? They don't need to get into the nitty-gritty like that, but they should, at a basic level, be able to show you how the content is produced and reassure you that they're doing their due diligence to make the content unique to your firm.
Yeah, I was talking to another gentleman that was working with the same agency who still is. And the assessment that we did for them showed his content is also AI, almost all AI generated. But his chart still shows an uptrend, but it's all AI content. And so he's not been discovered yet. And I guarantee, and I have him on my watch list. I'm watching you out there because at some point it's going to start to degrade and decline. And to the point here, it was very quick and swift. So once Google catches wind, they don't like it, hard to recover. And so, I don't hard sell people. So I'm just like, well, I'm going to be watching it. But once it's too late, it's kind of too late. And there's a lot of cleanup that's going to have to be done. And then another note too, if you're using AI content, there's so much more than that goes into this is the keyword, conflicts with keywords, cannibalization, right? So if you're just pumping out AI content every other day, there's no way you can, look at what content you've already produced and like make a decision on what you should produce and make sure that they don't conflict. So there's all kinds of other things that can happen regardless, outside of just it being helpful or not, right?
Absolutely.
So just tons of problems that can come with this. So
for sure. And speaking of the problems, you just mentioned this before I went back to the chart. There's a lot of ambiguity right now with lawyers and wondering how and to what extent can they use AI in their daily practice. And so we're starting to see some state bars address this in their rules of professional conduct. Michigan here addresses its concerns with AI. As we can see, it is trying to make sure that it answers these questions for attorneys in Michigan. And so it has an FAQs page for attorneys to go through and kind of see how they can use it. But unfortunately, whenever you're dealing with a large organization or a government entity or related, they're a lot slower to adjust to technological changes than they should be. And so that's why it's important for you to use these tools with caution and just think about, okay, if I do X action now, what would be the Y consequence in 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Even if there isn't a clear statement on your state's website here, your bar website here about AI content use your discretion and understand that, again, they're slow to make updates. And most likely, if you're just generating AI content at some point, that's going to go against the rules of professional conduct. Or if not, it will go against Google's spam policy. So in either case, if you're going to have to spend all that time rewriting or going back through content that AI has generated, you might as well just write it yourself. Sometimes it's just harder to rewrite a page that already exists from AI and try to make it new. So just sit down, block off some time in your week to write content that really resonates with you, because it is a gray area right now, for sure. And another thing, too, that we have is scholars are really questioning whether or not using AI in legal practice lends itself to confidentiality concerns, right? Because these models are using your input as training data. And a lot of times it's hard to opt out of these things. And if you do get the option to opt out, if they update their terms and conditions, maybe it might not be available for you to opt out in a couple of months or a couple of weeks or whenever they frequently update those terms and conditions. But that information that you put in those systems could potentially be used on training data and then given to another lawyer or anybody on the internet, really, in the future. And so scholars are wondering, does this go against attorney-client confidentiality? Potentially. There's a hard argument for it, a very strong argument for it. So you really do have to be careful here. And then kind of the last thing that I had here that I wanted to really dive into just in this presentation, and we can talk more about it, is the potential to hallucinate. As I mentioned earlier, most of those cases where attorneys faced, repercussions for using AI in their practice, a lot of those came from hallucinations. And we see that in law, hallucinations can range, as it says, 69 to 88% of the time when it comes to legal queries. And the more complex those legal queries became, the more these systems would hallucinate. So you really, really have to be careful because you don't know where it's getting its training data from. And we're noticing that it does a really, really good job at maybe summarizing, for the most part, some older Supreme Court cases and some newer cases, but everything in between, it's a gray area again. So you need to be careful. You need to fact check anything that these systems spit out. You essentially have to go back in and see where it's citing its sources. And a lot of times it won't say, or it might hallucinate, and you may not know that it's hallucinating if you just take it at face value. So this study actually came from the Stanford University Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence Lab, which is a very long name. But you can see here, like even schools that are very tech forward, like Stanford or like MIT, are speaking a little bit more into, hey, these models are maybe harmful for certain industries that owe a duty of care to the public. And so really just, you got to watch out, essentially.
I mean, because it goes back to what you said a second ago, is if you write your own content for your firm, don't use AI, right? But we're just thinking about the website and SEO and having that good content for people to find useful. Writing AI content and then trying to massage it and change it, it takes probably just as much effort. So you'll win today, right now, because so many people are doing AI content, which I see all over the place. And the managing partners and the marketing people, they don't have no clue that it's being done most of the time. I guess the short answer for this is, if you write your own content with your own voice internally to your law firm, or have someone that can help you do that, and it be real original content, you're going to be rewarded for it. And again, we're just talking about Google in this case. You're going to be rewarded because there's so many people cutting corners and trying to do it other ways. So you're going to stand out even more, be rewarded for it. We see it across the board. So just as a rule of thumb, if you're listening and you're trying to get a leg up or an advantage, you need to be producing real original content, hands down.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to say is there are some really good use cases for AI here and there. With legal, it's a little bit tricky because of the confidentiality question. So any industry that really focuses on confidentiality, medical as well, it'll be a little bit harder to integrate these tools ethically, but there are still ways that you can do so. So if you have, a meeting with your team, just an internal meeting, and you want to use maybe an AI transcriber, you can use that. Like Otter AI is a very, very good tool for transcribing and making summary notes, and then also creating action items. Very helpful tool. And then you can just share that with your team internally. Another thing that you can use AI for is if you have a lot to read through, attorneys need to read and write quite a bit. There are some tools that can use AI voices, and you can input something into the tool just locally on your computer, and it'll read through it for you. If you're more of an audio person rather than a visual person, you can use it in that way as well. But I always recommend that when you're using these tools, for the most part, you want to stick to internal purposes only. It's when you start to use these tools to do work that is going to be shared outside of your firm that you start to see those types of consequences, whether you're sharing that work with a client, you're sharing that work in court, etc. That's where you start to see a lot of these repercussions come through. So if you take anything from this, use AI, use it carefully, slowly integrate it in ways that you can. But when you integrate it, always ask about if your client's information will be safe with the use of this tool in your daily stack.
Yeah, and will just penalize me with Google and search traffic that I rely on is obviously using it as the work product or things like that. That's one thing, but with everyone's trying to get more leads and to grow their law firms, and so it sounds like a shortcut, and you can do all that to pump out content, but it's just going to hurt you very bad in the long run, and something you might not be able to recover from. And so just kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about doing this kind of stuff. And real quick too, looking back at the chart, I was just thinking about it for these other clients that I interact with. We have a tool that I scan pages. I know, Kayla, you do this too, to see if they have been written with AI. And so if anyone listening, if you're like, oh, I wonder if my content's AI or whatever, hit me up. Send me a DM, LinkedIn, or Kevin at arraydigital.com, and we'll scan your pages. Pick a couple, scan a few, and it's either going to be a 0% or some variation. We see 80, 60, 70% very often. You can do with that information what you wish. If you're not engaged with their agency and you have content being produced, that's a problem. If you don't have a content strategy with a clear plan of what content's been written, which months or weeks, that's a problem. And if you're not part of review and approval, that's a problem. So even if you're not really sure what's going on or what your marketing people might do for you, if you're not part of any of those processes right there, you don't have that information, then that's a problem. So you probably need to look into that. But that's a good starting point for yourselves to think about. Like, I don't have a strategy. I don't know. I don't know what content's being published. I have never reviewed anything, then red flags across the board. As the owner, you need to have your hands around that. You don't have to be involved in all of it, but you should understand it. You should be educated so that you know what to look for. Know what the strategy is, because it should align with your firm's goals, your sales goals, right? What kind of traffic are we driving? What kind of cases do we want? What's our ideal client? And all that should be part of that strategy. So just things to think about without getting too technical with it. So yeah. What do you have to add
I will
to that?
also say too that AI content is such a commodity to the point where a lot of agencies are taking this shortcut to publish AI content. And so before you even sign up with an agency, if you don't already have one, again, I would ask them about that process that they use and see if they have dedicated people on their team to do AI and make sure that you can talk to them and they're here real time. Because we're starting to see that a lot of these tasks are being outsourced or given to these kind of machines to do. And then if you have a concern about your content, or your site is all of a suddenly kind of dipping in traffic and you feel like it's content related, when you reach out to your agency, no one is there to be able to answer your question or to guide you through the process of creating content, et cetera. So making sure that you have that point of contact. We've been talking with a lot of different attorneys who just need some help and advice, and they've just been approaching Kevin and saying, what is going on my site? I was doing really, really well like a year ago, and then all of a sudden things aren't going well. And at least in the past couple months, at least like 60-70% of the time, it's AI content, just because Google sees it as spammy. And Google is going back and forth kind of on its mantra of how it treats AI content. But you want to make sure that what you're doing and the practices that you're putting in place for content production can weather the storm of Google changing its mind. So content that you spent time on and you wrote with a purpose and you had a strategy behind it and research behind it won't ever be penalized in the same way that AI content is going to go through these ebbs and flows. If you do it right from the beginning, then you don't have to worry about the trends of how Google is going to observe that content. You know that you can weather that storm. And that's the most important part there. That's just what I like to tell anybody that approaches us, and just kind of letting them know that SEO is a long game. You're not going to publish a piece of content today and then a week later, bam, you have tons of leads for a new area and a new practice area that you're doing, right? That's not how it works. It's cumulative. And so you need to have a website where you're building out lots of pages that have very helpful, optimized content. And it all kind of pieces together and lets Google understand a comprehensive view of how your site can help consumers. And so if you're just doing that very quickly and you're not really focusing on how everything connects to each other, then you're going to get the ramifications of that down the line.
I think, opportunity for some though, right? A lot of people are using shortcuts and AI and just short form content, or they're not really putting the strategy and thought behind it. That leaves room for firms to come along and take those rankings away. So do it right, put in the work, hire someone that knows what they're doing, whichever way you go, and you will win in the end. So again, I think it's a leg up for those that are dedicated. We just talked to a firm today. So they're writing themselves. They just need guidance. So they make video. They're a very engaged, small team, which can have huge results when we're working with someone like that. Versus a firm that's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm not involved. I don't want to even know what's going on. I don't want to improve content. I don't want to be part of it. That's difficult. Law firms, you need to be part of this. And if you're working with an agency, you should be very involved with what's going on. So, and then unfortunately, I've talked to a few folks in this case that have AI content. Hey, can you check out my stuff? Everything's going down. And they were $4 million, $6 million, firms that now are not sure if they can afford to pay us a few $1,000s a month to get them out of the hole. And it's kind of like this. What do? They can't afford anything, but they've lost all their leads. They've laid off a bunch of people, and that's those are small numbers. When you're talking a few $1,000s a month, we can help some folks, but that's tight. So just got to think about that. I mean, once you lose it and it affects you financially, it may be difficult for you to buy your way back out. So get ahead of it. So reach out to me. We'll scan your pages for free. Whoever reaches out to us, we can scan them and let you know. And if it's good, we'll let you know. If it's not, something you want to think about and take it to whoever's doing it for you. So.
Mm-hmm. And if you're using AI to try to generate content because you're concerned about the velocity that you can accomplish, that's where a team like us comes in. So we have a scalable internal system where we work with attorneys who are only doing, 1 unit of content a month to attorneys who do 20 units of content a month. And that's not even an exaggeration. That's legitimately how many they do, because they have this ginormous site that is, spans across multiple states, almost all 50. So anything that you really need to do and you need to execute, we've been able to build out a program here, our SEO program, web program, content programs. We've been able to build those to where they're scalable and we can help clients of all sizes, firms of all sizes and all niches for legal. And so I would say if you're concerned about that and that's why you're using AI content, still reach out and see what, Array Digital can do for you in that regard. We do have ways of kind of working with our clients to make those costs a lot less intimidating. If you have a budget that's smaller, we do have plans for that as well, because we just sat down as a team and said, there are so many attorneys who we've encountered, or like Kevin's encountered, and he said they wanted to work with us, but they had, a budget that was pretty prohibitive to what we could do maybe a year ago. But now that we have these more budget-friendly plans that still give you a lot of SEO and content and web development love, now you're able to start that journey and really have a cumulative growth and a good foundation to not only do content and SEO in the future, but to evolve those efforts into off-page work. So if you wanted to optimize your LinkedIn a little bit more and grow your profile, and kind of become more of a thought leader, you can do that as well. And we can really help you get there. So I can talk about our program all day because I'm a big fan. It's not just because I'm here. Like, I genuinely think we build our program around what feedback we get from our clients. Because if it doesn't work for them, then at the end of the day, what are we putting all this effort in for? So it needs to work for them in terms of accessibility and working with us and having that transparency with our team, but also bringing in leads. And that's a delicate balance that a lot of agencies may not be able to handle, because we can see if they're getting you lots of leads, but you have questions, who do you call? You don't know. Or vice versa. They're not getting you tons of leads, but they're sending you a bunch of stuff saying, hey, your traffic's great. Hey, this looks great. And you're like, it's not equating to phone calls. We're able to really balance both because we've done trial and error and been able to say, here's what clients really want from us a lot more. So we have a director of client advocacy. Her name's Megan. She's fantastic and is really focusing on, really focusing on ensuring that all of our programs really like meet the needs of these clients where they're at, and finding things. Even within my program, she'll say, hey, this wasn't as clear to the client. It can be a lot clearer. You need to clean XYZ area up in your process. And we got to listen to it and we got to adjust. So we take that kind of thing very seriously. And so if a client is concerned about budget, velocity, anything there, then we're able to speak to that and help them in multiple ways beyond what maybe they were offered in the past.
Yeah, I think it's been a mission of mine and Gary's and all of ours put the effort in. But I also see, I see a lot of firms out there, smaller firms. If you're listening, if you just started, or maybe you're a year in business or two, budgets are tough and to hire someone. So, but there's a lot of big like firm agencies out there that do a terrible job, and they just take a little bit of money you do have, and it doesn't really do anything for you. So we put together a lot of plans and packages that are $850 a month, and coaching's involved, and and when you're at those kinds of levels and budget, you got to have some coaching. You got to be able to do a lot of stuff yourself. And so we've really been trying to focus on how do we help the small solos get their feet on the ground and actually move in the right direction, so they can begin to grow and then begin to add different elements of their marketing that they need to grow and scale. So that's been really cool to kind of see. And we're working on even more stuff to take it to a training and stuff like that, and materials that people can get access to. So really our goal here is just to help folks. I don't want clients that we can't help. So our goal is to figure out how we can best help, and the work will come from there. We don't sell hard here. So always something new. We had a meeting this morning, just all the changes to Google, the leaked information that came out of Google, what Kayla's talking about today, new things we can do with our content and things like that. So it's just always changing. So yeah, as always, you got questions, you can reach out to me. I can connect you with Kayla. We can set up a call. This is all we do all day, is we talk to potential clients, and it's like a coaching session every day. So, but we love doing it. So if you got any questions, you don't have to hire us. If you want us just to look at some stuff, happy to do it. So
absolutely.
Kayla, anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I'm trying to think. I think that was pretty much the grand summary of AI content. I could really sit down and dive into super detailed information. But I think what would be really helpful is, as Kevin mentioned, if you do suspect that your agency is writing AI content for you, give us a call, reach out to us, and we can sit down and kind of investigate that a little bit more and then talk with you about what next steps are. So something that we do that's a little bit different in our calls where we're doing assessments or kind of giving solutions is give you something to walk away with that you can implement yourself that you don't have to hire us for. At the end of the day, a lot of us have a higher education background or come from other businesses prior where there was a lot of just kind of helping the public. I know my mom, she was an English teacher for 30 years. And so she really just dedicated her entire career to helping and educating and making sure that she could make a difference in her students' lives. And so being able to be here and focusing on educating clients and just seeing them grow, whether they're a client or a prospect, just anybody we're connected with, genuinely is a good feeling at the end of the day. At the end of the day, just personally for me, like not even any kind of money or sales on the table, but just seeing that aha moment go off for them. Even if they say, I can't really afford to hire an agency right now, but I love this tip that you gave me today, or I walked away with that meeting with 5 things that I can do. Thank you so much. That's what I need to make my day. And so if you want to do that and you can do that for free, just go ahead and reach out to us. And we're always happy to help and just educate as many people, as many attorneys as we can, because that's just really the lifeblood of our company. Here, we're not focused on racking in as much cash each year as possible, right? It's really making sure that we have people who love doing what they do and who do it with a passion and who are able to help our clients in a way that's not really found in other places in our industry. So that really just goes into the fabric of even before you become a client, we're here to help you no matter what you decide to do later on.
Well, I appreciate that, Kayla. Thanks for diving into the AI content. So everyone, just obviously AI, be careful with it. If you're not sure, ask questions and talk to somebody, us or someone else that might know what they're talking about. So, but that's it. I guess we'll wrap up this episode. Stay tuned. We'll have Kayla on again next episode, diving into more topics on content and what you need to know to succeed online for your law firm. So have a great day, Kayla. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.